Welcome to this episode of the Soulful Conversation Podcast. Today, we're exploring a quiet but painful pattern about why we continue to attract toxic people into our lives and how to gently begin breaking free. This recording includes subtitles, allowing you to slow down, breathe, and absorb each insight with presence and intention. Why do the people who hurt you always seem to be the ones you open your heart to the most? Why is it that no matter how much you give, how kind you are, how patient you try to be, you keep ending up in the same kind of relationship, draining, confusing, even painful? If this has been your pattern, you're not alone. And you're not cursed, you're not weak, you're not broken. There's a reason this keeps happening. A pattern that formed long before you even realized it. A quiet thread running through your friendships, your romances, maybe even your family. And once you see it, truly see it, you can finally untangle it. Because here's the truth. You don't attract toxic people because you deserve pain. You attract them because somewhere along the way, pain got tangled up with love. And today, we're going to untangle it. Gently, honestly. One layer at a time. This isn't going to be a lecture. It's a conversation. And maybe it's the one you've needed for a very long time. So take a deep breath. We're not here to blame the past. We're here to understand it and to finally set yourself free from it. Chapter 1: Unpacking the Pattern. It usually starts small. A friend who constantly vents but never listens. A partner who jokes at your expense, then says you're too sensitive when it hurts. A family member who only shows up when they need something. And yet you stay. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because a part of you hopes that if you give just a little more, they'll finally treat you right. That hope, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was built quietly, subtly over the years. Maybe you grew up in a home where love came with conditions, where being good meant being quiet, helpful, and easy to manage, where your needs didn't matter as much as keeping the peace. So you learned to shrink yourself, to become the fixer, the caretaker, the one who holds everything together no matter what it costs you. And when you met people who needed fixing, who felt familiar in their chaos, it didn't feel like danger. It felt like home. You see, your nervous system doesn't crave peace if peace was never modeled. It craves familiarity. And if love always came with pain, unpredictability, or having to prove yourself, then that's what you'll unconsciously seek, again and again. This is how toxic patterns root themselves so deeply. They hide beneath the surface, disguised as connections. They whisper, maybe this time it'll be different. But it never is. Because until you recognize the pattern, you can't change the script. The truth is, you're not attracting toxic people because something is wrong with you. You're attracting them because somewhere along the way, your heart was trained to confuse struggle with love, drama with passion, neglect with mystery, control with care. And the more you overextend, the more you abandon yourself for others, the more it confirms a painful lie, that love has to be earned, that you're only worthy if you keep proving it. But that's not love. That's survival. And you're allowed to stop surviving. You're allowed to learn a different way. Chapter 2: Why do you attract toxic people? Let's go deeper now, because understanding the why is where real change begins. You don't attract toxic people because you want to. You attract them because deep down, you've been programmed to believe this is what love looks like. It's not about logic. It's about your emotional blueprint, formed long before you even had words to describe it. Think about this. If love in your early life came with inconsistency, you'll chase people who give just enough to keep you hopeful, but never enough to make you feel safe. If love came with criticism, you'll find comfort in those who challenge your worth because it feels familiar. If love meant fixing someone, sacrificing, walking on eggshells just to be seen, then you'll mistake emotional labor for intimacy. It's called a trauma bond, not because the person causes trauma, but because the pain feels like a connection. You know it's hurting you, but you also feel like you can't walk away. And that feeling, it comes from a deeper identity loop. When your self-worth has been built on overgiving, pleasing, or proving, you unknowingly train yourself to accept crumbs and call it a feast. You believe that if you just love someone hard enough, they'll finally become who you need them to be. But love isn't transformation therapy. It's not your job to heal people who refuse to heal themselves. And here's where it gets even trickier. Toxic people, whether consciously or not, are drawn to the energy of someone who doesn't believe they deserve more. It's not your fault, but it is your wake-up call. Imagine this. You're a locked door, and the kind, healthy people, they knock, they wait, they ask for permission. But the toxic ones, they barge in, because they know you don't believe you're allowed to lock it in the first place. That's not love, that's invasion. And it starts with this truth. What you tolerate teaches others how to treat you, and what you believe about yourself sets the entire stage. So if your inner story still says, "I'm only worthy when I'm useful," or "love means sacrifice," you'll keep writing the same painful chapters no matter who plays the lead role. But when you change the story, when you shift your belief from "I have to earn love" to "I already deserve it," the entire cast changes. The toxic ones fade out, and space is made for something real, something safe, something kind. Chapter 3: The Emotional Cost. There's a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of lying next to someone who doesn't really see you. It's the loneliness of smiling in a room full of people but still feeling invisible. That's what happens when you stay in relationships that drain you. Over time, something inside you goes quiet. Your laughter feels a little more forced. Your joy starts to feel like a performance. And eventually, you stop trusting your own feelings altogether. You ask yourself, am I too sensitive? Is it really that bad? Maybe I'm overreacting. But you're not. You're just exhausted. Because holding everything together all the time is exhausting. Because loving people who constantly hurt you isn't noble, it's self-abandonment. And that self-abandonment doesn't just affect your relationships, it starts to bleed into everything. Your confidence, your work, your dreams. You begin second-guessing your decisions. You hesitate to speak up. You apologize for simply having needs. You become a version of yourself that's easier for others to love, but harder for you to live with. And here's the most painful part. When you're constantly in survival mode, your nervous system never gets to feel safe. You stay on edge, hyper-aware, always waiting for the next emotional blow. It's not just emotional fatigue. It's a quiet, constant war within yourself. And over time, you forget what peace feels like, what being at ease feels like, what mutual care, softness, and safety feel like. But that doesn't have to be your forever. Because the moment you start choosing yourself, even in small ways, you begin to rebuild what was taken from you. And the more you choose yourself, the less space there is for people who only ever chose you for what you could give. Chapter 4: Breaking the Cycle. So, how do you actually change this? How do you stop attracting toxic people and, more importantly, stop accepting them into your life? It doesn't start with fixing others. It starts with coming back to yourself. Because the truth is, the most powerful transformation doesn't come from rage or revenge. It comes from reclaiming your peace. Before you can change the pattern, you have to see it clearly, without shame. Notice the moments you felt drained in past relationships, the conversations that left you anxious, the people who made you feel like you were too much or not enough, sometimes in the same breath. Instead of judging yourself for staying, try asking, what was I trying to feel? Where did I first learn that this kind of love was normal? Start small. Journal the moments that felt emotionally unsafe. List your emotional triggers, the words, behaviors, or silences that made you shrink. Awareness isn't about blaming yourself. It's about telling the truth so you can finally choose something different. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're clarity. They're the difference between love that's mutual and love that demands you disappear to keep it alive. Start with simple, honest phrases like, "That doesn't work for me. I care about you, but I need to protect my peace. I'm not available for that kind of dynamic anymore." You don't owe everyone access to your energy, especially those who misuse it. And remember, a person who respects your no is someone worth saying yes to. Anyone else? Let them go, kindly, firmly, fully. Boundaries don't push love away, They make space for real love to finally come in. Toxic relationships condition your nervous system to associate unpredictability with love. That wiring doesn't change overnight, but it can change. Start by replacing old narratives with new truths. I don't need to earn love by suffering. My needs matter, even if they make others uncomfortable. Being loved isn't a reward for being small. It's a right. Say them, write them, repeat them, especially when it feels hardest to believe. Next, learn to soothe yourself. When the urge to chase, fix, or prove shows up, pause. Breathe. Sit with the discomfort. Speak to yourself like you would to a child who's hurting, not broken. Try this instead. Take a walk without your phone. Write a letter to the version of you that always had to be strong. Rest without guilt. You're not needy, you're healing. And healing often looks like doing less, not more. If your identity has always been built around rescuing, fixing, or being the emotionally strong one, letting go will feel scary. But freedom often feels unfamiliar at first. So ask yourself, who am I when I'm not carrying someone else's chaos? What do I enjoy when I'm not trying to be useful? What kind of love do I want to receive, not just give? Start redefining your sense of self around peace and not performance. You don't have to be the emotional sponge, the caretaker, or the one who always understands. You get to be held too. You get to be seen, not just tolerated. You get to exist fully, without rescuing, without chasing, without shrinking. And when you start embodying that version of yourself, calm, grounded, whole, you'll stop attracting people who thrive on your chaos, because that version of you won't need to be saved and won't tolerate being used. You'll begin to feel safe in your own presence. And in that safety, you'll start recognizing people who are safe too. Chapter 5. The Conclusion. So if you've been wondering why the same kind of pain keeps showing up in different faces, know this. You're not destined to suffer. You're not cursed. And you're certainly not broken. What you've been caught in is a pattern, one that was likely formed long before you knew you had a choice. But here's the powerful truth. All patterns can be unlearned. Even the ones that feel like they're stitched into your skin. You don't have to keep trying harder to be loved. You don't have to earn someone's respect by losing your own. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's emotional chaos just to feel wanted. Your value isn't measured by how much pain you endure. It's defined by how much love, respect, and honesty you're willing to accept. And what you accept starts with what you believe you deserve. So let this be a gentle turning point. A moment where you stop blaming yourself for not being enough for people who were never willing to show up fully. And start realizing that you were never the problem. If this resonated with you, if even one part of this felt like it was written for your heart, I invite you to share your experience in the comments. Not just to be heard, but to help someone else realize they're not alone in this either. You'd be surprised how many people are silently walking through the same emotional maze, just waiting for someone to speak first. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Sharing your experiences can provide profound emotional relief and build genuine community support. Not only can your openness offer comfort to others navigating similar journeys, but it also reinforces your own emotional healing by breaking the silence that so often accompanies these experiences. So speak. For yourself, for your healing, and maybe for the healing of someone else too. Today could be the day you break the cycle. And you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start. Even one small step forward is still a step toward freedom. And you deserve that freedom. You always have. Thank you for listening to the Soulful Conversation Podcast and for taking this quiet moment to come back to yourself. Be kind to your mind, and until next time, stay rooted, stay gentle.